All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, one of the things you may want to note here about writing these inequality proofs, and some of the things you may find is that this is a little bit harder than, standard congruence proofs here, and that's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The key for this here is that, you can think of, especially for proofs here where these sorts of proofs here where there are very few steps, you might want to think of this as a ladder to be completed here, right? You can link information in order from the givens to a proof statement here. So your proof statement is going to be the last step of your ladder here, and then you have your given at the start here, and then we'll just have the matter of filling in at the beginning here. So we know that in this situation, for instance, right, we want to show that the measure of angle 2 is greater than the measure of angle 4 here. We know that's going to be the last step of our rung, and we know that measure of angle 2 is going to be greater than measure of angle 1. That's going to be important to us later. I don't know how yet, but we're going to try to put that together. Okay. So we look at the thing here, and we know, okay, let's see, maybe there's something we can do here. All right. I know that we have two equal angles here, so 3 and 4, so I'm going to jot that in here. I don't know where it's going to be in, but we know that measure of angle 3 equals measure of angle 4 here. That's vertical angles, right? We can mention that here. So now we need to somehow get this here. We know that 4 is going to be in our goal here, so that means basically if I try to combine these together, I have to show that 2 is greater than 3. Now, if I put these together, in this case here, if I knew that 2 is greater than 3, I could do substitution and get 2 is greater than 4. Okay. Now, let's see. 2 is greater than 3 here. That's going to be interesting. Note I said that now we have 2 is greater than 1. So that gives us an idea of what to do, right? Because now I know that so I'm basically kind of building it backwards here. If I knew that 2 is greater than 3, then that's great because I can put these two things together, 2 is greater than 3, and this together to get to this goal. Okay. Now, if I knew that 1 is greater than 3, right? Because if I knew that, then I can link that with 2 is greater than 1. So if I knew that the measure of angle 1 is greater than the measure of angle 3 here, I can link these two things together and get the measure of angle 2 is greater than the measure of angle 3 here. And then I can link these together and get this here to our goal, okay? So we can see that I'm kind of just jotting down some ideas right here, but now we seem to have a bit of a plan. We've sort of tied these things together here, and now since we've tied these together, we can try to put it all together like this. And all we have to do is just try to figure out why each of these things are as they are. Okay, well let's see here. Well, we know that's given at the top of the rung. Now 1 is greater than 3. Note that in this situation, I got a triangle here like this, right? This triangle over here, we can see that angle 1 is on the outside here. This angle here is an exterior angle of of the triangle, so we know by that exterior angle theorem, we know this is going to be greater than 3, so that justifies that. And now we're pretty much home free. We can actually put everything together. So now our proof is basically ready to go. Okay? So considering what we just talked about here, let's go ahead and write out this proof and just make sure that we're all okay with this here. So again, I'll write this in 2-column form. You may choose to write this in paragraph form. There's nothing wrong with that here. That's fine. Okay. So basically now we're just putting this together. We know that, so we can start off with that given piece of information. So we're going to start with that here. That's given to us. Now, note that we want angle 1 is greater than angle 3 here, so I'm going to mention that next. Okay, angle 1 is greater than angle 3 here, and the reason being here, right? So this is an exterior angle of a triangle, so we can say that the measure of an exterior angle of a triangle is greater than the measure of either non-adjacent interior angle. Now you'll note, again, just like before, we're going to write out these theorems in full. We want to make sure that that's going to be the case here. We want to make sure that it's always going to be written out in full so we understand what's going on here. Okay. And now we can glue them together. We have angle 2 is greater than the measure of angle 3 here, right? And this is going to be our transitive property. That's from steps 1 and 2. All right, so that takes care of the black thing here. This, and this is now taken care of. Now we can introduce the next part. The next part was we had to deal with the vertical angles here. So we're going to mention that. We know the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 4 here. And these are the fact that we have vertical angles. And we know vertical angles. Now, normally we'd say vertical angles are congruent here, but because we're dealing with equality here, we can change it up a little bit. We can say that they have equal measure. And that is that's on its own. And then finally, we can put everything together and use substitution and say the measure of angle 2 is greater than the measure of angle 4 here because of the substitution postulate. And that's from steps 3 and 4 here. And you note that the proof, again, works out very nicely here. We were able to convert from our sort of like our doodling with our chains here to what we needed to do. And, you know, when you're dealing with these sorts of triangle proofs here, it's often a good idea to try to plan it out first. At least jot down your ideas. Even if you don't, you know, do the full chain, at least jot down statements that are true, because then you can start, you know, putting things together and letting your brain make the connections for you here.